Good, excuse me, good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. Okay, before I get started, I have a not a special request, a personal request. This isn't really that special of a moment, but I could really use your help on something. If you're catching this video here in the live stream or in the next, couple of days or whatever, um, there's a missing child out there, Penny Lyles, and I know this girl personally. She's 15 years old. She's a runaway, and I'm going to leave a link down in the description to a YouTube video. Nancy Grace has actually covered this story. Now, again, I know this family personally. I know them quite well. I don't really want to talk about any of the details of it. That's why I really kind of want to hand it off to Nancy Grace. She has all the details and interviews and all this other stuff, but this is one hell of a story. And I tell you, to know this kid personally, I have to give it to her. I have to say, go Penny. I mean, she is really she is standing up as a 15-year-old saying that I'm taking control of my own damn life and I'm going to do whatever the hell I want or choose to. And considering that she's a pretty good kid, she's pretty articulate and pretty smart. This is one hell of a story, like I said. So I don't want to talk about it personally, or to get into too many details on it. Like I said, the Nancy Grace covers it quite well, and with interviews both with Penny and her dad. And, you can leave it up to your own judgment of anything that's going on there. But anyway, I just feel that I have somewhat of a responsibility having a media or a social outlet as broad as mine is, to be able to span across, many states and across the nation, to be able to share this story with you, so that if you happen to see Penny or know where she is right now, to please, get a hold of the authorities, because she really doesn't need to be on the run right now, or ever, or anything else like that. But again, if Penny happens to catch this, I'm kind of proud of you, girl. All right. Let's talk about economics, and let's get into that. Go watch that Nancy Grace as soon as we're done here with this, but that video. But I wanted to talk about Cantillon because I've had a few people just get kind of upset with me when I say that a lot of the stuff that we're experiencing really doesn't have much to do with politics. Politics are very much reacting with the economy, and if it is described 200 years ago in Cantillon's essay, right? If it has if you can read through this and say, man, that is so similar to the events that are taking place not only here in the United States, but in China, moving into India, when it comes to what happens when new money comes into the state and how it is that those states react, or act to it, or the politicians act upon it. I can't get that story off my mind. Okay, let's focus here. All right. So I pulled out the essay and I wanted to read through a little bit of this, and then we'll kind of discuss it and see how it is that a lot of this is still similar today. Right now, in Cantillon's essay, he describes the new money coming in as in the form of a silver mine. All right. But he also talks about it doesn't necessarily have to come in through silver mine. It could come in through manufacturing. It can come in through war. It can come in through the issuance of debt, borrowing the money. Talks about new money coming in from foreign dignitaries. Of course, you got to think this is 200 years ago, right? But foreign families coming to a particular area, bringing their money with them and stuff like that. So he talks about a lot of new ways money comes into the system. In this particular in paragraph, he's talking about it in the form of a silver mine. Okay, let's do this. If the money continues to be extracted from the mines, the abundance of money will increase all prices to such a point that not only will the property owners raise their rents considerably when the leases expire and resume their old lifestyles, increasing their servants' wages proportionally, but the artisans and workmen will increase their prices of articles they produce so high that there will be a considerable gain in buying them from foreigners, who will make them much cheaper. Good Lord. This will naturally encourage several people to import products at lower prices from foreign factories, and this will gradually ruin the artisans and manufacturers of the state, who will be unable to sustain themselves by working at such low rates because of the high cost of living. Now, I mean, I kind of stumbled through that a little bit, but if you kind of understand what was happening there is that they talk about this new money coming in, and as the new money coming in and the new money coming in, driving up the prices of everything, that the people who are producing the goods and services that are existing at the time will then have to start competing with the foreign production, because that foreign production will start to move in, and those particular people, the workmen, the artisans, and the people who manufacture in the state, will no longer be able to sustain themselves as those cheaper foreign products start to come in to compete with their current wages, or manufactured goods and stuff. When the overabundance of money from the mines has diminished the number of inhabitants in a state, right? Because this is, and actually I'm experiencing this quite a bit coming here in Astoria, as like the new money comes in, because we have a huge hospital kind of medical district that's growing. A lot of remote workers have left like the Portland area because it's so nasty there, and moving out to Astoria. So there's a lot of people who are new to the area who are bringing in more money. Like the residents who live here have more money. And the people who typically lived here, the working class, no longer can afford to live there, and they have to leave. Like it's a gentrification thing, and that's what they're describing there, right? The inhabitants and diminishing the number of inhabitants in the state. Okay, those who remained, accustom those who remained to expensive expenditures, raised the prices of farm products and the wages for labor to high levels, and ruined the manufacturers of the state by the purchase of foreign products by property owners and the mine workers. The money produced by the mines will necessarily go abroad to pay for the imports. This will gradually impoverish the state and make it, in a way, dependent on foreigners to whom it is obligated to send money every year as it is extracted from the mines. The great circulation of money, which was widespread in the beginning, ceases. Poverty and misery follow, and the exploitation of mines appears to only be advantageous to those employed in them and to the foreigners who profit thereby. So he's saying right there that if this continues, this new money comes in, and the ever increasing amounts of foreign production continues to pour into that particular state, it will soon only become advantageous to the people who have access to the money and the foreign producers and people who sell that foreign production, right? And that's where he was saying the great circulation of money, which was widespread in the beginning, ceases and poverty and misery follow. Now, when we think about that, when the United States was a manufacturing powerhouse, this is where we really can start relating it to what's happening today. Like, I think that right there is probably one of the most telling parts of this part of the essay that I'm going to read from today. That great circulation of money, which was widespread in the beginning, ceases and poverty and misery follow, right? So we think about that. Why was the United States, during the times when we were a manufacturing powerhouse, had the highest standard of living, right? We had that high standard of living because we were producing all this wonderful stuff, and we were sending it off to the world, and the world was sending us their money, and we were able to enjoy that new money coming into our hands. That's why we were able to have a single, income be able to provide everything for a household, right? But as time went on and we started buying Toyotas and started buying TVs and we started buying stuff from foreign production, it was driving out our domestic manufacturing, right? See, now we can blame it on politics. Like let's do it. Like it was them who did it, right? Whatever political, thing you can do, because there's plenty of blame to go around. Like you can just sit there and just do it all day long and sit there and blame politics for it. But yet it's described so simply from an essay written 200 years ago, right? So why complicate it? Why make it harder than it really needs to be? Now I understand during this time, there is all kinds of political action that happens. Some of it involves some very tragic events of humanitarian crisis, right? I'm not trying to deny that part of it. By the way, if you are watching this video right now, go hit that like button. We only have 24 likes on this video. We should have it up over 100 with 149 people watching. Thank you for hitting that like button. Now, if it was anything at any time in history, if you go and you watch and you think about all the timelines that have happened within these great nations that have ever risen and fallen, they all kind of go through the same thing, right? Like think about the Roman Empire. They were on a war path because they were not really producing anything for themselves. They had to constantly bring in new money, right? They had to have this new money coming in from all the war effort in order to get the foreign production to come in because they had risen, their lifestyle had risen so much. And then the moment they couldn't do it, anything, it was over. It took no time at all, right, for it to fail. And this is something that you can find over and over again. Here in the United States, we were well on our way to failure, right? I mean, you think about it, the manufacturing base was leaving, right? We could no longer afford to make our payments. We were going into debt. This is the problem with it, right? We had gained all the gold, right? And if we didn't start handing the gold back out there, having a redistribution of wealth, right? Like a real redistribution of wealth, then we were gonna end up, failing completely. But we jumped off of the gold standard and started issuing a lot of debt. And that's where the new money comes from. And that's the reason why we haven't failed yet, like gone into misery and all that. We are separating the classes. This is one of the reasons why you have such a separation between the rich and the poor. He describes it right there. It's only advantageous for the people who have money at first access to the money. So you think about it, if you have had a lifetime of new access to the money and you've done really well with that new access to the money, like think about Robert Kiyosaki kind of people, right? Like these are the type of people who like had new first access to the money the entire time and took advantage of that, right? And this is the difference between it. And as that's taken place, it's separated because the rest of us are working for it. We get our new money by going and working 9 to 5, which isn't enough, right? Not to compete. And the people who figured it out, right, who know how to take advantage of this particular system, it's not even taking advantage, it's just knowing how it works and doing it, right? By doing that, you're able to, really separate yourself from everybody who is just like grinding away doing 9 to 5 work. This is, I mean, to me, like this is not like I don't blame it on politics because the idea that you can blame it on politics is like, no, man, it's because of the person that you voted for or who's in office. By taking that stance, this is the dangerous part about doing this. Thank you for that super chat. I'm going to go and get it. I haven't missed it yet. Thank you guys. By taking that stance, this is the problem that I have with it, is that you are also taking the stance that there is somebody that you can vote for who can fix it. And that's where I see a problem, because I don't think there's a fixing the system. This is a cycle that we are going through, right? And now we can have different politicians in there who are lying to us about how it is that they can solve a problem. And if we believe it, then we don't understand what's happening with this cycle. We can't position ourselves right. And people, like, that's another question that I've had, and I just want to briefly hit on it because it just popped into my head, is that somebody says, what are we supposed to do with this information as like a regular 9 to 5 Joe Dirt kind of dude, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not you. I'm not that neighbor over there. We both kind of have a similar life, but what he's doing, his goals, his ambitions, and what he is in positioned himself from his life. Was he an alcoholic at 39, giving it up at 40? I don't know, man. I mean, that's a whole different world that he is experiencing over there. I couldn't tell you what he needs to do, but he needs to take this information for himself so that he can understand what it is that he needs to do, right? And same thing with me. And that's what I really try to relate to people, is that, when I'm giving out this information, I'm trying to give it out from the position that I have taken. You internalize the information and then you figure out how it is that you need to, deal with it. Alrighty, I am on a roll. Okay, let's go read the super chat. Alex, thank you so much for the $4.99. What happened when interest rates on the debt surpass early or yearly military spending? I don't know. Like, I don't know all about the what ifs, right? I mean, I'm not trying to figure out like what it is that the Federal Reserve should do. Like, that's not, I don't know. I don't know what the Fed should do. Jesus. Like, I mean, shit. I hardly even know what I'm supposed to do. But I'm trying to figure out what it is that the Fed is doing and what their strategy is. And like what I'm looking at and what I am trying to like gather, at least in my mind, from what I have tried to simply form, is that they have tried to elevate interest rates to a significant point so that they have their ammo back, right? Part of having their ammo back is getting the neutral interest rate, which is the interest rate that they are neither accommodating nor restricting the economy, to be able to get that to elevate ever closer to the Fed funds rate, their position where they have interest rates. The closer that neutral interest rate moves towards the Fed funds rate, the less restrictive the Fed is on the economy. right? They can position themselves in a way that they don't have to do anything. The neutral interest rate will rise on its own. They therefore giving somewhat of a less restrictive position to the economy, meanwhile them holding their position on their Fed funds rate. If it ever did come to a time in which that they do need to stimulate the economy, then they will be able to drop their Fed funds rate a significant point past the neutral interest rate to make it a significant rise in the stimulus. All right? Does this kind of make sense? I don't know. This is what I see happening. The point being is that they had to have the Fed funds rate up significantly for a significant amount of time in order to get the neutral interest rate to rise ever closer to that Fed funds rate. Right? And then once they do stimulate the economy, they have their ammo back. That a little over 5% on the Fed funds rate. Typically, the Federal Reserve would want to drop interest rates around 5% to stimulate the economy. They have positioned themselves back with like loaded guns again. They're like, we got it back, right? I mean, for the last 15 years, they were out of ammo. They were using credible threats and quantitative easing and damn near using credit negative interest rates, and in a way they sort of did, right? And all this other stuff, and now here they are, like loaded up again, right? And they're just waiting for that neutral interest rate to rise, making the economy less restrictive, and then one day when the economy does fail, boom, they can stimulate again. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but that's what I see. Like that's how I kind of anticipate it. And then at some point, when they do have to go negative, they're gonna have the central bank digital currencies in play at this point, right? And then you'll have to have cash removed from the system, because if you have negative interest rates, then people won't keep their money in the banking system, and then you're gonna have issues with that. So the central bank digital currency will have to be trading 1-to-1 with the dollar. Cash will have to become a nuisance, so people will just choose not to use it. And then the central bank digital currencies can then be, the common currency that everybody is using. That to me is going to take a very, very long time to introduce, like a generation, really. I mean, or longer. Like it can't flip like a switch, because people would flip out and not play the game. Thank you so much for the $5, B Dan82. Very cool of you. I really appreciate the support, guys. This is really cool of you. YouTube hasn't been cool, but I see we have 177 people with 66 likes. Force and immigration levels continuing to drop. What effect could this have going into the future? Yeah, that's actually going to be a pretty big problem. Now, what kind of effect is that going to have into the future? I can't exactly tell you, because we have a technology difference that is much different from what we had experienced like during the Industrial Revolution, where we needed a lot of people to work the factories. We are now moving into much more robotics and stuff like that. I don't know how this is going to really impact the workforce, right? Because there is going to be a definite impact that's happening. But if you look out there right now, there seems to be more jobs than there is people to fill them, right? And so I don't know what that's going to do to the ever increasing amounts of pay or inflation pressure, but it doesn't seem that the Federal Reserve is concerned about that any longer. Like there was a time in which that the Fed would look at something called the Phillips curve, right? And this is where if they wanted to create an inflationary scenario, they would create a scenario in which that there was more jobs in existence. So basically low unemployment. So if they had low unemployment, more people working, spending their money is causing more consumption. Consumption causes prices to go up. And that's what the Federal Reserve was looking for when they would do that. Now they found that if they go and raise the employment or lower the unemployment or have a abundant, or how do they call it? Maximum employment or full employment. There we go. Full employment, right? If they have full employment, it doesn't have the inflationary pressure like it once had, like what they had remembered from back in the day when they would use that, metric to try and determine where it is that they need to position the monetary policies in order to get the inflation scenario that they were looking for. But they don't look at it like that anymore. They're like, the unemployment can stay full all the time. It doesn't have the inflation pressure like they once expected. Right? It turns out shortages is what causes inflationary pressures. They tried to get inflationary pressures with the quantitative easing, and it worked okay for a while, but it didn't give the inflation expectations that they were hoping for. That was the major problem that the Fed was like suffering through, is that they did not they they could not what was it? They were failing to achieve the inflationary scenario that they were looking for. Let me see if I can find how he says it. Here we go. This is coming from Monetary Policy Strategies from a Low Neutral Interest Rate World. Today we face an altogether different set of problems stemming from a very low neutral interest rate, right? Again, that interest rate that I was talking about was too low. It was too low to zero. Like they couldn't drop the Fed funds rate below the neutral interest rate without running into the lower bound of zero, without stimulating the economy. This was a major problem. Like, how many people are talking like this, right? When people say that I'm like, on the Fed side, I'm not on the Fed side. I'm trying to figure out what the Fed strategy is. I can care less what the Fed does. I just want to know what it is, right? I mean, it's not me to figure it out. All right, so altogether setting from a very low neutral interest rate, that is, the short-term real interest rate consistent with an economy operating at its potential alongside low and stable inflation. Ironically, the problem we need to solve these days is the risk of inflation that is persistently too low rather than too high. The problem they needed to solve was the risk of inflation that was persistently too low rather than too high. I mean, is this not like, are we not sitting in a position in which the Federal Reserve is just going like, man, we're just doing it, man. We got this whole thing by the balls, right? And everybody believes it because the inflation expectation is running rampant no matter what you do. And that is totally what they were looking for, right? I mean, in fact, he goes on to say it. Let me see, where is it at here? The resulting, because he talks about it actually being the inflation. I'm sorry, guys. Expectation. He talks about it in theory, both average inflation and expectations. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to sit here and read this whole thing and like bore you guys looking for it. But anyway, he talks about it in there as like, as far as the inflation expectation running persistently too low rather than too high, and how they need to get the inflation expectation to move up, right? Yeah, this is carries in a risk of it. Anyway, I'm moving on. All right, let's read some comments here. Thank you very much for those super chats. I really appreciate it, guys. YouTube is showing me like no love right now. The algorithm is just like not really spreading the videos around, and not like they once did. Of course, I mean, it could be me with my videos, so I shouldn't blame YouTube. I just should make better videos, I guess. All right, let's go down here. I see all-nighters up in the house. Thanks for being here, brother. All right. Gerald Salente Jr. Let's see here. Just passing by to show some love. Sorry I can't stick around. Oops. Sorry I can't stick around for this one. Catch you next time. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. Want to be Tracer? Tracer you are? Let's see here. Are there really that many jobs out there? The rise of ghost jobs makes me skeptical of the NFP with jobless claims going up. Yeah, I do kind of wonder about that myself. Like, you know, it, I heard a lot of people in this, and I can understand why it kind of makes sense. Like, as far as like, looking for like maybe some of the best hires, or having to prove that you are actually looking to hire somebody or something of that nature. Like having job positions opened up but not actually filling them. Like I've heard of this happening out there, but I haven't necessarily experienced that for myself. Most of the people that I know who are running businesses had a very difficult time over the last year, and only recently have been able to find people who are what they would consider of quality, like they show up every day and actually do work. Um, and that's only been within the last 6 months that I've heard less complaining that they can't find anybody to work. So more people are obviously going back to work or going and finding the service industry jobs, because that's generally the ones that I'm kind of referring to as like kind of the, I guess what you would say, like not the glamorous positions. All right. So disgusting. I miss the greatest generation so much. Oh, who was the greatest generation? Generation X, right? Your videos are perfect. Hey, thank you. I really appreciate you, man. Um, I just come out here. I just try to make my videos and give it from the understanding that I've gathered, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who give a much different perspective and they have a much different story to tell when it comes to what they see going on within economics. Again, like I look at it from the position that I have taken, right? This is the information that I've gathered. I got theories from way back in the day. I got speeches from 5-6 years ago. I got more recent speeches that I go through. I look at this stuff every single day. Like a lot of times we end up looking at things in a way that we want them to be, right? And if we haven't put investments, this is a big one. Like this is where I lost like not necessarily faith in the information that I've gotten from a lot of people, but I've questioned the position that they have taken for the information that they have gathered. Right. So if you are like you put all your money into silver and gold mines and stuff like that, then you are going to look for information that is going to be dollar destruction and you are going to find it. Like you can go out there and spend all day researching it and coming up with all the realities that you need in order to convince yourself that you have taken the right position. I know I've done this, right? And that may not even be a bad thing. You might have nailed it and say, man, I've taken the right position. I got it. You're wrong, right? That's cool. Like you might be right on that. I don't know, right? I'm not trying to say I'm right or wrong or anything, but what I guess I am trying to say is that if you have done that, then you will not find information like I'm seeing because you won't be looking for it. And that's the difference inside of it, right? Like I have gold and silver, I have stocks, I have crypto, I have a job, I have a house, I have I position myself in everything. Like I don't know of one single thing that I have that I would be like, woohoo, like I really nailed it because like I've spread myself out completely on everything. And I didn't even mean to. Like I didn't do it on purpose. I mean, I guess I kind of did because that's like the natural intuitive thing that I did from the information that I've gathered. But this wasn't a strategy that I had come up with. I just kind of, as I went along, I just started picking things up and it was like, oh, what's that? How does that work? Whatever, and started doing it. And this is where I found myself. So I don't stress about like, if the dollar goes up, cool. If it goes down, cool. If real estate goes up or down, cool. Like I don't like nothing to me is like worrisome or bothersome or anything. Because generally if one goes one way, something else I have goes the other. And like I just feel like I'm pretty well balanced out there. And I didn't even really try to do that. It just happened. Hey, right on. Thank you very much. Life in New Somalia, law enforcement, corruption. Wow. You must have a heck of a website or a channel. All right, let's go see what you have to say here. Thank you for the $10. Oops, get back down there. All right, we have now homeless senior citizens riding around in U-Hauls crying where I live. Wall Street buyers, rents way up, wonder where interest rates fit in. How long before property values start to drop? Who's to say that they do? We read this essay. You read this essay here from Cantillon, and at some point, like I can't sit here and just go through it because I don't know exactly where they are because I didn't highlight any of this stuff. But in this essay, he talks about how there is abundance of money coming into the state because of the high rents that people are paying, right? And again, like if you're going to go, I left the link down in the description to the Mises Institute, which is a great place to go and find the links to the essay. Excuse me. And there's two parts to the essay, part 1, part 2. Part 2 has 3 chapters to it, chapter 6, 7, and 8. This is the increase and decrease of money to the state. If you don't read the entire essay, cool, read those 3 chapters. That's like the most important 3 chapters. The entire essay is really good. Like, I mean, you should really read all of it. But if you just read those 3 chapters, and it wouldn't take you but maybe, I don't know, half an hour, I mean, it took me all day because I can't read for shit. But but it really, you could blast right through it. There's really not that much going on there. And it really describes this all so very well. Like, and you can really kind of get the idea where it is that like nations like China right now and how it is that they are going to fail because they don't have new money coming in. Their manufacturing base is starting to diminish, right? And as it diminishes, they are not having the new money coming in like the United States did when they started issuing out debt. Now they would love to be in that position, but they have to convince the world that their debt is good. Like, who wants to borrow money or lend money to China? Right? Nobody wants to lend money to China. Everybody would lend money to the United States. They want those U.S. treasuries. People like them. Like, even though no matter what, all the stories that you hear about how the United States treasuries are not in demand, that's wrong, right? They may be in less demand right now than at times, but they are not going to be given up on. I assure you, this is not the case, right? Because there's nothing out there that can replace it. That's why, right? I mean, there will come a time when it will fail. I shouldn't say that. There will. This isn't it. Not that I see. I mean, I see it taking some time. But let's get back to this question. Let me see if I can find it in here where Cantillon talks about it. Oh, I don't know, guys. I don't want to like sit here and bore you with it while I sit there and look for it. But he does talk about how at some point, let's see, the ancient Romans were more powerful in this manner. Like, okay, here, let me just read this one because I think this makes so much sense here. I love this chapter or this paragraph right here. It says, the last method I can think of about increasing and decreasing money. This is about the increasing of money, since we were just talking about China and how their manufacturing base is starting to fall. Like, how do they get the new money coming in, right? The last method I can think of to increase the quantity of money actually circulating in the states is by violence and arms. Right? And this method is often blended with others, since in all peace treaties one will try to maintain trading rights and other privileges one could obtain. When the state mandates contributions or makes several other states tributary to it, this is very sure method of obtaining their money, right? Think about how the United States goes around and says, here, I mean, you have to do all your deals in dollars, right? I will not examine the methods of putting this theory into practice, but I will say that all the nations who have flourished in this manner have not failed to decline, like the states that have flourished through their commerce. The ancient Romans were more powerful in this manner than all the other people we know of. Nevertheless, these same Romans, before losing an inch of their land, or of their inch of the land of their vast states, fell into decadence through luxury and impoverished themselves by the reduction of money which circulated among them. It was this luxury that caused their empire to pass into the hands of the eastern nations of the Orient. So you think about it, like the rise into luxuries, like they raised their living standards, and then all of a sudden they had to come up with all this new money coming in constantly to maintain that higher standard of living. The moment that they couldn't do it anymore, all their money left, boom, to foreign production to maintain the standard of living, which wasn't going to happen so long as the money wasn't there, and they failed. Yeah. And that's where the United States was going to be. Like, that's where China's going to go too. So what is China going to do? Right? This is why it's like so scary to think about, because China's going to fight. Right? I mean, they're not going to be like, oh, guys, sorry. I mean, all you Chinese citizens out here, I know there's like 1 billion of you. You're on your own. Like, you're tough luck. Like, we don't have new money coming in, and it's just going to be hell for you to pay for your and suffering and misery and all that other stuff. Does that make sense? Or does okay, we got to put our stuff together and we got to go start taking over nations, and we got to start either they lend us money or we kill them. I don't know how to I don't know what's gonna happen here. It's just but they're gonna do something, and now we can blame it on politics again, but it's not necessarily politics. They're just caught themselves in a position in which that they don't have new money coming in, and if they don't have it coming in, what are they gonna do? There's nothing they can do, right? Except for figure it out to maybe become a manufacturer again, which probably isn't going to likely happen since it doesn't really work that way, right? I mean, you can lower your standard of living, work really, 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 really hard, and do not use that money for anything, All right. Reinvest it back into working hard and manufacturing stuff. That's what it would take, right? That was what it would take for the United States. It would take for China, right? But it's not going to happen because it doesn't work that way. Right? So they're going to get real mad and they're going to get upset and they're going to try and do something about that. And then, you know, there's going to be a lot of fighting. You know, I mean, that's just the unfortunate thing. So anyway, as far as the new money continues to pour in, as long as we're sitting in this position in which that the system is still operating, right? This is like the crazy thing because people were like, well, it's about ready to fail. It could, yeah, maybe, you know, I don't know. I thought it was going to fail years ago, so here we are still going. I'm going to have to assume that it's not going to fail tomorrow and that it's going to operate the same way or something similar to the way it was operating today with the strategies that I have picked up, right? But if there was a complete and utter failure, I don't know how that's going to look. If the system continues to operate in the fashion that I believe that it is going to before they're that complete and utter failure, then what we are going to have is an ever increasing amounts of separation between the rich and the poor. It's going to be very difficult to buy homes, right? If you are working 9 to 5 job, like just a regular average dude, unless you happen to live in an area that pays you pretty well for that position, in which that you might be able to take advantage of being into getting like a fixer-upper or something like that, or you have the skills yourself to actually build a home, it's going to be very difficult to get one, right? It's just, at least for a while, you know? Even with I even think about the mass baby boomer die off, right? Because this is like another like theory that people have pointed out to me. I just feel that there is a lot of people right now where you have multi-generations living in a home, right? There's already people living in that home. Not everybody's going to die, right? And so when the baby boomer does die off, who may be the owner of that home, the kids are probably going to inherit it, right? If they don't, they're going to need a place to live again, right? This is demand for homes. And I believe that they're already occupied. They're already spoken for in a lot of fashion, right? So that's the problem I see coming, right? That's a major issue. And, you know, in this day and age, it's not a matter. Like you can't work, like working 9 to 5 is fine. I work a 9 to 5 job myself. I don't necessarily love my job, but it's a good job, right? I mean, it keeps me occupied. I have something, you know, to, you know, pay my bills. I get some health insurance from it. There's like a lot of reasons that I get retirement, right? You know, I mean, there's like contributions to 401k and matching contributions. So there's like a lot of reasons for having a regular job, but there's no way that I could do it without doing this too, right? Without being here on YouTube, without, you know, pursuing some of the things that I'm trying to do to, you know, to do the things that I do. Right. I mean, it takes an ever constant grind. People like call me a workaholic at times, and I think about it, you know, it's just like, well, if I'm not working, what am I doing? Right? If I'm not working, what am I doing? Like, that's it. It's just like, that's all there is out there is making this stuff happen and constantly pushing forward because there's going to be times in which that you're doing well. Right? And you get soft and get, you know, and get comfortable with what's happening out there, right? And then realize that it's not the way you thought it was, and all of a sudden you find yourself working hard again and you're not earning much, right? So if you're just constantly grinding, you don't care when you're winning or losing, you're just always on the grind, right? You think back to that time, oh man, remember when I was making all that money and I got all soft and I didn't think about it? It's because you weren't grinding, right? You know, it doesn't matter if you're making money or not. That's not the point, right? The money comes from doing that. And that's why you don't, like, you know, in this day and age, there's so much to do. There's so much. And like, I don't understand why people don't do more. I see them like, you know, they work hard all day and then they go sit at the bar. And I'm like, oh, you just worked hard all day and then you just gave it up. You know, like you just gave it all up. Everything that you did. Like, yeah, I mean, you paid your bills. That was cool. But, you know, like, you were almost there. Like, you had a few more hours to continue grinding. You could have really just stacked it all up, and instead you went in reverse and you drank it all away. Right? I mean, that was my problem. I'm not talking about you or anything. I was talking about myself, you know. Okay, man, so many comments. All right. And thank you for hitting that like button. We're up to 127 likes. I knew we would get it up to 100. We got 220 people. Let's see if we can get to 200. I don't ever ask for likes. You know that, right? Because, I mean, I figure that if the video itself is worthy of a like, then you would go ahead and like the video. And that's how I know that I'm doing a good job. So if I ask for likes, to me, it doesn't necessarily like feel natural to what it is that I'm trying to do for the channel. But here on the live streams, I do ask for them because I feel that if I ask for likes and the likes start moving up, then more people start getting the video through the YouTube algorithm, and then more people start joining in, and then we have better comments and everything else starts coming from that. So, again, it's all about, spreading the stuff around. And besides, if you haven't, yeah, I'm just going to do it right now since we have a bunch of people in here. 225 people watching right now. If you have just come into the live stream, down in the link, there's a YouTube video to a Nancy Grace video to a missing child. I know this child personally. If you happen to see Penny Lyles out there, please call the authorities. And then, I have to give it to Penny. I'm kind of proud of you, girl. I mean, I listened to that story. I listened to her because she called into Nancy Grace. I don't really want to talk much about it, but she called into Nancy Grace and had a really long interview and told her exactly how she felt about being at home. And I tell you, she's what articulate girl. But here's the thing, before I get off this subject, because I don't really want to talk about it. I've known, when I was in school, I knew quite a few people who ran away from home, and I'm like, you have some pretty sweet parents. You got caught smoking weed and doing sex, having sex and stuff like that. And that's why you ran off, because you were all embarrassed and your parents are pissed. I just recently know of a friend of mine had her daughter run off, right? And again, it's just this is frustrations going on with the teenagers, rebellion and stuff like that. There's a lot of that's happening out there. To blame the parents immediately for a lot of the stuff that's out there, and according there's accusations and stuff like that that are pretty atrocious, whatever. I'm not here to be the judge, jury, executioner, whatever, that stuff. That there's other places that's for discussion of, right? But the point, being out there is that I've known a lot of kids who run away, and it's not necessarily for, say, the reasons that the kids have made it up to be, right? Or as bad as it is, or maybe it is. I mean, she seems to be pretty mad. This is the thing, at some point she was actually in Department of Human Services custody. And she was just like, you're transferring me back home. It's funny, she talks about this in the interview. And she was like, I need to use the bathroom. Boink, and she bounced. That's that's her. That's petty. I mean, I've known her since she was 6 years old. She's cool. All right. Moving on, back to economics. Let's talk about the fail of economies here. All right. So define person. Legal definitions matter big time. No room for ambiguity. Golly. There's just some words out there I just can't say. I mean, it's just I try and it just doesn't come out. Ambiguity. There we go. Yeah. I tell you, All Nighter should really do a YouTube channel talking about just what it is to be sovereign citizen, sovereign person, talking about some of this stuff. Just to understand what it is. You don't have to necessarily live that sovereign citizen person life, or whatever. I'm not saying that, but to understand the information of it is really, it's kind of key. It's kind of like understanding the economics information, right? And a lot of people don't even understand what that is. A lot of people are hearing these words that I'm saying right now, and it's like, what in the world are you even talking about, right? But there's essentially out there two entities, right? You got your corporate identity and you got your natural person. And to understand the difference between the two is huge, right? Understanding that there is a difference in how these two operate makes all the difference in the world to understanding how all the economy, how politics, how all this stuff works. It's almost like the missing link that people are looking for to understanding. Am I wrong, All Nighter? I mean, am I wrong on that? I mean, it's like the missing link. Once people understand this part of things, it's like everything just goes, oh, I get it now, right? I get it. I get the laws. I get the politics. I get the money. I get the banks. I get it all. It all makes sense. It doesn't clear up every question, but it starts to really draw it frames the picture together, and it's just I get it now, right? I mean, I get what's happening. And then from this point, you can really start nitpicking the information and busting it apart. Dig it, understand the matrix. That's right, man. I mean, it's I mean, it's pretty intense stuff out there, you know. It's and once you realize it, it's just like, I mean, it's so disheartening. Like, you look at your government and you're just like, man, well, it's two things. One, it puts you way above them. All of a sudden, you don't stand under authority, right? You are the authority because that's the way it naturally occurs. Right? And if you know how to stand with authority, if you know how to stand confident with your constitutional rights, the rights that, that government doesn't give to you, you already naturally have them, right? And you know how to express yourself in a way that, commands that they are held accountable, the authority that is coming towards you. It's like you wear a shield, right? Now, you're not going to stop natural human behavior. You piss somebody off, they're going to, they'll hurt you, right? I mean, because they are a natural human. But legally, like when it comes to how it is that you interact with government, you have so much more authority over them than you know. Like, you don't even realize it, like how much more. And once you do, man, it's just, everything just changes. Everything that you look at changes. All right. Missing links for sure. Let's see how much gun to side hustle. Huh. I like shields, but I didn't. The scriptures say talked at economic animals. Amen. Maybe it was Irish stuff before it was translated, though. The common law is the real law, the supreme law of the land. The codes, the rules, regulations, policy statutes are not the law, right? Self versus Ray. Yeah. Here's one, like, a lot of people kind of argue with me on this one, and not to, like, and this is a matter of opinion, but when I was taking in this information, right, and I started learning about what it was to ask for permission for things, like, the moment that you ask for permission, then you are admitting that you don't have a right, right? Because if you had a right, then you don't have to ask for permission, right? I mean, it was just like, I'm doing this because it's my right, right? And the moment that you say, hey, can I do this? Then you are admitting, you're like saying, I don't have a right. I'm asking you for permission. So now, think about this. When it comes to concealed weapon permit, right? People have asked me all the time, don't you enforce your rights? Why don't you go get a concealed weapons permit? That way you can carry it, right? And to me, a permit is a permission slip, right? In itself. I have gone to the government and asked them for permission to something I already have a right to do. I have a right to bear arms. I shouldn't have to ask for permission in any way, shape, or form. Now, granted, I understand the concealed weapons part of things, right? Because they don't want a bunch of people hiding guns, especially if they're not, like, registered in some way, like, that they have a gun. I mean, I can understand kind of how the laws work, but that doesn't deviate from the fact that I already have a right to own this firearm. Like, I don't have to ask for permission to do this. This is my right. So now we think about the right, and then all of a sudden handing over that right so that we can get permission to carry this thing concealed. Now, regardless if I have the concealed weapon, if I have that permission slip, I have no longer have the right to remain silent if a police officer comes to my door. I must tell the police officer whether or not I have that firearm. I cannot remain silent. I am giving up my right to remain silent by even stating whether or not I have a firearm with me. Not only do I give up permission, my right, by asking for permission, but then I did it again by telling him whether or not I actually had a firearm when I have a right already to remain silent. Do you see what's happening here? The actual concealed weapon permit is, and to me, a very unconstitutional act. And by actually acquiring one, you're behaving unconstitutionally. Sorry, all-nighter. I'm not, no offense, bro. No offense to anybody. But in my opinion, this is a very unconstitutional thing. That not only am I having to ask for permission to a right that I already have, that I don't have to ask for permission to, I shouldn't even have to ask for permission, but then I have to give up another right by not remaining silent. Right? Two rights gone. By having a concealed weapons permit, which is supposed to be constitutional, doesn't seem that way to me. Right? Now, again, that's my own personal opinion. I don't mean an offense by anybody who's got their concealed weapons permit and feels like they're a constitutionalist and all that. I'm still, you still are, you're still, still proud American or whatever. I'm not saying anything. This is my own personal belief in the matter, right? But I think that makes a lot of sense when I think about it that way, All right. Okay. Law for life and small. Pistol brace is legal. I love my PTR 9K now, yeah. Appreciate it. All right. The assertion of federal rights when plainly and reasonably made is not to be defeated under the name of local practices. Davis versus Westler. See, this is why, I'm again, if you know your rights, if you know how it is that you can conduct yourself, you can go through all this stuff. You can, you can work it. You can work it well. I personally, this is what I've learned. I don't have a concealed weapons permit, but then again, I also have a driver's license. I pay for insurance. I do all the stuff. I pay taxes. I shouldn't have to do any of that stuff. Right? I shouldn't have to have a driver's license or pay taxes or do any of any things I do, especially the money that is given to me. Right? I mean, why should I have to pay taxes on that? All of a sudden now I have to pay taxes on somebody wants to buy me dinner and they send it to me through PayPal. I have to pay taxes on that. I mean, why? They wanted to buy me dinner. If I sat down with them and they bought me dinner, did I really have to pay taxes on that, or would you? I mean, I guess you should, if they're buying it for being a YouTube's celebrity, if that's what you want to call it. I don't know. To me, that just seems so unreasonable, but yet this is kind of the case. Yeah. So I don't like participating in any of that stuff, but you know what else? I don't like having to defend myself against the government. I don't want to have to sit there and, I don't want to, here's the thing. Once you become a really hardcore constitutionalist, once you have kind of gathered this information and you've got it, you do not want to be put in a position in which that you have to defend yourself. Ever. I will not cross the street unless the sign says it's okay. Right? Because if I get stopped because I was jaywalking or something like that, and now all of a sudden I have to identify myself for that, right? I am now putting myself in the submission of government, and I do not like being in that position. But the moment that they come up and they say, hey, I want to know who you are, I want to know where you're going, I want to know, I can ask them, can you articulate that crime that I've committed, committing, or about to commit? Right? If you cannot, then I am on my way. This is not a consensual conversation. Right? And understanding how that operates, how that works, and be able to conduct yourself in that way is the way that you protect yourself. That's the shield. Right? But you got to know what it is. You got to know how it works. And, just knowing it is enough. You don't have to necessarily be that, that sovereign citizen who doesn't pay taxes, who writes off their debts with an accepted for value, form to the IRS or however the hell that thing works. That's not necessarily the case. But just understanding how that information, or understanding that information and how to interact with government in that fashion, it's very valuable. I mean, it's incredibly valuable. Right? People who don't know the Constitution don't understand rights. I don't understand how they even get to vote. You shouldn't be able to vote if you don't know the Constitution. If you can't dictate the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, then I don't know what we're doing here. I mean, it was just and I know most people can't, right? The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution is the only one you really need to know verbatim. It's the only one you need to know, cemented into your tongue. It's the rights of the people to be secure in the person's houses, papers, and effects from unreasonable searches and seizures. No warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons and things to be seized. Show me the warrant. And as All Nighter points out, show me the signed warrant. Very important, because they can get a warrant doesn't necessarily mean it's signed, right? So that's another important thing. If you ever have them saying, I do have a warrant, now let's see the signed warrant. And if it is signed, then say, okay, thanks for the signed warrant. I'm going to stand over here on the other side of my locked door. I'm going to put my hands above my head like this. And while you guys kick the door in, please don't hurt me. Right? Because if you have every right to kick the door in, then you will. Right? I don't need to open it because you got a warrant. And just like this Grateful Dead song, if you got a warrant, I guess you're going to come in. Right? So this is like understanding this. This is how it works. Right? And then if most of the time, if you understand it really well, you conduct yourself in a way that none of this stuff occurs. Like you don't have to worry about anything, you know. But, you know, it is kind of hard to like, you know, make a lot of money and then not pay taxes on it without them coming down and like, you know, just taking everything from you. How long have we been out here? Almost an hour. Right on. Okay, where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rule making or legislation which would abrogate, another word, all right, abrogate them. Did I say that right? Miranda versus Arizona. Yeah, so basically, where your rights are involved, there can be no law that violates your constitutional rights. Any law that is created that violates your constitutional rights is void. Right? So there's no law anywhere in this country that says that you can't carry a gun, right? Carry a firearm. However, like Astoria, and I see plenty of people who carry firearms who do open carry in Astoria, City Ordinance 5.010 says that the open carry of a loaded firearm is illegal, is forbidden, right? That you can transport your firearm, you can carry it, you can probably carry as many as you want, right? But they can't be loaded, not inside the city limits, right? And so this is where they are not violating the Constitution, because you have a right to carry your firearm, but you don't necessarily have a right to carry a loaded firearm. And that's the difference inside of it. And people need to understand that difference too, because I see people like, oh no, I have a constitutional right to carry this firearm. Yeah, you do. Nobody's saying you can't. Not a single person, not even the city of Astoria, is saying you can't. What they're saying is that you can't carry it loaded. That is illegal, right? And so, again, you know, whether or not people actually, you know, enforce that or care to, you know, or whatever, that's the law. And I mean, I know it. I mean, I even know the law, 5.010, right? I mean, it's just like, it's, you know, that's what constitutionalist people do, right? So that way when the cop stops you, you're gonna be like, no, man, this is the way the law's written, right? Here's, you know, the Oregon Revised Statute, here's the city ordinance, here's the whatever. If you know these laws and you could spit them out, and the cop is going to go back and they're going to be talking to lawyers and stuff to see if they can prosecute you for a law, you know, if they can get you on a law. And like if you're spitting it out like that, you're going to be like, all right, see you, dude, get out of here, you know. And you won't have to identify yourself or anything, you know, unless you're committing a crime of some sort. All right, hit the like button. Yes, please do. Wow, look at all these comments. You guys are going for it. All right. I know how to hold a state agent accountable via surety bond is also key. Ignorance leads to defeatist attitude. That's right. See, that's the thing. Like, if you can, you know, so you walk like that, like All Nighter does. That's incredible. You know, that's an incredible position that you can be in, that like even government agents are like, wow, how do they do that? Like, how is it that he was able to conduct himself in such a way that most people just submit to all the evidence that they need in order to, you know, convict you of a crime, but yet this person could stand there and just say all the right things to be like let go for not having a license, driving a car without insurance or registration or even any, they're like, you know, how is it they're able to do this? But yet they can conduct themselves in a way that is possible, right? How do you do it? You got to learn. You got to learn how it works. And once you kind of understand how it works, then you understand how it is that you can conduct yourself in a way that you don't actually interfere with, like, you know, people trying to come into your constitutional, you know, protected area, because you just don't simply allow it. It's like a boundary that you don't even let them even get close to, you know. All right, Astoria is an interesting place. I found, regardless of political beliefs, one can have civil conversations here. Oh, yeah. I mean, I like Astoria. I mean, I've been all over the place, and I really can't think of any other place that I'd rather live. Astoria is friendly, it's clean. I know the people here. I mean, it's a nice town, and it's changed a lot. When I was younger, it was kind of a rough place. A lot of logger fishermen type. That was kind of the majority of the town was a very working class kind of rough town. And over the years, it's definitely softened up. I mean, it's softened up a lot, and we have a lot more trendy kind of bars and just kind of like all the divey bars have like not really have that like dirty feel like they once did. They're kind of feeling a little cleaned up and looking a little better and stuff. So everything has kind of changed. It's not like necessarily like that working class town like it used to be. It's much different than it once was. It's much more of like a trendy area. And that's kind of cool too. I mean, in a way, it's like I said, it's friendly and it's clean and it's nice. And all right. Okay. Let's see here. Uneducated economist, you work at a hardware store. You can do this at any location in the US. You could live in a state that no one cares about firearms. You can hunt without a license and buy a massive house on land. Yeah, I could, right? But I don't. I live here, right? And I mean, if I was doing that, that's what I would be doing. But I don't want to do that. I want to do this, like what it is that I am doing. Yeah, it's an expensive place to be. It is. But my kids are going to the school that I went to. Like some of the faculty that is there was there when I was a kid. I'm 47 years old. Think about that. That is so weird, right? But that's happening. And so to have a place like I grew up less than a half a mile from where I live right now, you know. This is where I wanted to be. It took a lot. It was hard. Like I didn't have to work as hard as I did to have a place to be. But this is the place that I was choosing to be, and it took a lot. It took everything out of me. Like I mean, at one point, literally, it took everything, like everything, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things that I could be doing, but would my kids have teachers, have faculty who are, you know, helping them gain an education were the same people who helped me, right? I mean, that's weird to think. And so I can't move, right? I mean, I'll move eventually, once the kids grow up and, find a place, then, I don't know what I'll do with this house, I'll rent it out or do whatever, and I'll go off and travel and find places to be. But until then, I cannot think of any other place that I would want these boys to grow up, right? You know, I mean, it's actually almost too soft of a place. They need to be a little harder, right? Like learn valuable lessons and street skills and stuff like that they just don't experience here because everybody's so nice. Right? And it's weird. Like the worst thing you have to worry about, like, the most violent thing is somebody like, stealing something out of your glove box or something. It's like it is a very low crime rate around here. And I shouldn't like, spread it out there because it's like, be an easy target or something like that. But it's just like, it's just the way it is, just the community here. Um, have you ever have you ever considered using your understanding to make investments decisions? If so, what decisions have you made? I would think you'd be successful playing the bond market. Um, I own some bonds. Uh, you have to think like I'm 40. I'm 47 years old now. At 40, I had nothing. All right. I started this channel. Oh, what was it in 2000? So about 5 years ago, right? And when I started the channel, I was still $20,000 in debt. Um, you know, that was in credit cards and medical. I had no vehicles. I really didn't have much for like, I really still even don't really have a whole lot in the way of possessions, like household possessions, stuff like that. I was in a bad spot. Like people like kind of look at me and I think they kind of get a misunderstanding, especially when you have like a lot of followers on YouTube. Like, you come up to 130,000 subscribers and people automatically kind of look at you and they think, oh man, you must be some sort of millionaire. It doesn't work like that. Like, not even like, I'm just a regular dude who makes a nice supplement using YouTube, but it's not like $1 million thing. Sponsors are $1 million thing. Like you can make a lot of money doing sponsors, right? Or, taking that, but I don't like it. Like I literally don't like the way I feel when I do the sponsored videos. And I can't bring myself to continue on with it. Like, I mean, there is like, I'm tempted, like even right now, because the ad revenue doesn't come in that great on YouTube, I'm tempted to go and do the sponsored things, but it's not, I'm really torn on it. Right. And I've tried to justify it myself, for myself, like self-justification inside of it's like, hey, it's for your family. It's, it's worth it. Everybody does it. You should see some people do 5 or 6 of them in a video, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, I've never looked at anybody else or compared myself to anybody because if I did, then I wouldn't be out here doing this because, like, I'm really kind of standalone. But really, 5 years ago, I was broke, like, absolutely broke, had nothing. Right. And as the revenue started coming in, I started paying off debt, paid family's debt off, paid like, a lot of debt, paid as much debt off as I could till had no more debt. And then I saved a bunch of money. And 2 years ago, I took every dime I had, every dime. Like I had $300 left over in my checking account. The only thing I didn't sell was my silver or crypto holdings or anything like that. But I took all my cash holdings, everything that I had been working and saving and making through YouTube and my job and bingo and everything that I was doing. And it took a lot. It took everything I had. Right. So 2 years ago, I was absolutely broke. Right. And then I had to pay taxes, all right, on the money that I was saving to pay taxes with. I used for the down payment on the house, right? So then I had to come up with all this other money in order to do that. So I have been like basically broke all the way up until like maybe like a year ago, right? And even still, there's all kinds of stuff that constantly come up because no matter what you do, this is one thing that I found. If you do not have a plan for your money, like if you earn money with no plan to do something with it, the universe will take it from you. They will throw all kinds of bills and tragedy and problems and issues and all kinds of stuff at you, and it will take all your money because you didn't have a plan to deal with it, right? And since you didn't have a plan to deal with it and you didn't know what, then it will go, right? And that was my problem. Right, it's because I didn't really have the investments. That's when I started like, oh crap, I got to start moving this stuff into investments. So I started buying a lot of stock in Altria, started buying Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, uh, Vanguard Russell 1000 ETF, and I bought Coinbase. And that Coinbase stock that I bought, which I kind of dollar cost averaged from the time that it was, available since its initial public offering, all the way until it hit the very bottom. I bought it at the very bottom. I think it was like, $30 or something. I can't remember how low it had fallen to, but I had dollar cost average on that one. Right now, that part of my portfolio is up 85%. My Coinbase stock is up 85. It's the best like thing out of everything that I own. It went up the most in a percentage basis. Now, of course, I don't have that much money in it, so it's not that exciting, but it is, pretty significant amount when you look at it when it's like, a lot for me anyway, but for some people it may not be a lot of money. But that's what I've done, right? And at least in the stock position, cryptocurrencies, right? Bitcoin, I have right around a half a Bitcoin right now. I buy $50 once every 2 weeks, once a month. I'll buy $50 worth of Bitcoin, and same thing with silver, right? I haven't bought silver lately because the premiums are just so damn high. I just like not really interested in buying a whole lot of silver, physical silver with the high premiums. I don't know if I'm going to have much other choice if I want to keep stacking. But silver would be the other one that I would buy, and I would have no problems buying it right now, considering that I think like, the position inside of like the stock market wouldn't be a wise one to take right now. I think it actually would be fairly smart to get into the silver position, even though we're starting to see the prices moving up and we have high premiums on it. it's the late kind of runner to the game at the end of the scenario. People don't know where to go for safety. They're scared. They don't want to be in the stock market. And they're worried about what the dollar is going to do, all that. There's really no place to go. Like, gold is it. Like, gold is like the safe haven asset. It's like out of that third party claim. If you have it in your hands, the rest of the world can collapse. Right? It doesn't matter what happens. You're not expecting an envelope. You're not expecting, a phone call. You're not expecting anything. You got it all right here, right? And it may sound kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like, like scary, like I'm gonna go hide and hermit like or whatever with my gold while the rest of the world collapses. But that's essentially what it is, right? You can physically hold on to your wealth while the world collapses, and then you can go back into investments or stuff like that. Um, Again, I don't know if I would necessarily take all my position into gold and silver, but it's one that does carry that sort of weight to it. All right, let's move on. What are we talking about? Did I get another super chat? I did. I got a sticker from Fire on the Grom. Thank you very much for the $1. I really appreciate it. You guys' support of the channel is just awesome, and I mean, I don't know how to say it, it's just like you guys have kind of experienced it all with me, what I've done and everything I've got going on. I look forward to what the future has. Like, I look forward to what's going to come from it, all this. I don't know what's next, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that I should be doing with this channel. I feel like I've gone idle, and I feel like I've really kind of like tried to regroup into what it is that I'm trying to do. I keep putting out the YouTube videos, but I feel like I should be doing so much more. And I don't know, maybe I don't know if I'm just like wanting to know, like trying to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do. Like I don't know. Like I thought making these videos was it, but I feel like it's not enough. There's got to be, you remember when you first started, I told you that you have over 100K subscribers. How many do you have now? Yeah, I do remember. I do remember a long time ago, back when, I was crossing 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 subs, and I thought, man, I cannot believe this is like amazing, just absolutely amazing to have this many subscribers going, that this channel is taken off, that it's actually making money, that, that it's growing and all that. And yeah, a lot of the viewers are like, man, this ain't nothing. You're gonna be at 100,000 subscribers. You're gonna be big. You're gonna do all kinds of stuff. And it was just like they could see it more out of me than I could see, And it's funny because like a lot of times I have a feeling like a lot of times people will watch me and they're like, dude, if I was you, I would be doing this, this, and this, and I would be a millionaire already with the attention that you have and all that, like, and to me, like, I don't know, maybe it's because I don't have that kind of focus, or I let that go, like that whole idea or concepts or whatever, that it flows to me, right? Like you're always in abundance of something that you don't want. Always. Like the moment that you want it, it's over. The idea that I wanted money from the YouTube channel, like even just recently, as like, the ad revenue has dropped and a lot of, YouTubers are complaining about that very thing. Like I started like trying to put out videos that I think would get attention, and it didn't work. It got even worse. Like the views would fall and people weren't like really, commenting like, the way I would like to see the comments, people were saying, hey, this is a good video. Hey, great job. I learned something from this, or, like comments like that weren't coming as much. So I gave it up. I was just like, okay, so the YouTube channel doesn't make me money like it did. That's it. Like, whatever it makes, it makes. I don't care. Like maybe it don't make anything. That's not why I'm doing it anyway, right? It was never why I started the channel to begin with. My whole goal was to earn $100. That was my whole goal. And the moment that I kind of realized that it was making a lot and doing well, I was already on that wave. Like I was already riding it. Lumber was doing well. People were getting this attention. I was getting invited to that Rebel Capitalist event. I was like, all this stuff was happening. It was just pouring in, right? And all the way leading up to that, I never cared. I never cared about earning any of it. I just didn't, like, it was amazing. I was like, wow, but I wasn't like I didn't care. I literally didn't. I'm like, cool, this money came in, get rid of it. Boom, let's pay off that debt. Let's get rid of that. Let's do this. Let's do those things, right? And let's save it up and get rid. Like to me, it wasn't like I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't something that I felt was permanent. It always felt temporary to me, and so like I didn't care about like thinking, okay, this is going to be something that I would have, like, or like building something up. It was more of like, do something very important with this, like, pay off that debt and then get ready to buy a house and do all this other stuff. That's what I found important about it. And then when I started giving it even more importance is when it started to hurt. So, like, letting go is the most important thing that I have found in life. The moment that you can let go, you release energy, that wanting, needy energy, and things start to flow. Things start to flow back in. And that's important to understand. Like that's been the hardest things for me because I have such a big ego, right? And I know I bring this up every time. I bring this up because I'm recognizing this stuff out of myself. And in every day I see things that I do that I was just like, man, you block a lot out of your life. You know, you block a whole lot because you have this ego on the way you think things ought to be. And because you think things ought to be this particular way, you put up these walls and you put up these barriers that prevent things from happening, even though you probably would want them to happen anyway. Right? But it's just like I can't help it. And so, I'm trying to learn to let go. And that's why I find like, talking about like that particular thing, is so appealing in so many ways because when I think about the times that I did let go, it was so rewarding for me. Right? In so many ways. All right. Ken FX, thank you very much for the $10. What is the same about what is the same about every game? What is the same? Is this a riddle? What is the same about every game? There's a winner and loser. There's you win or lose. I don't know. What's the same about every game? The government owns all the land on West. Freedom sounds like some of the real Einstein stuff. Maybe its base is being. I can't mention some of the habits on YouTube, allegedly. Riddles are nice. Okay, where are the dice? The dice are right here. Hold on. There you go. So, what are you calling on the dice? 6 and 5? If I am here, the FBI is he. It's beatable. Same about every game. It's beatable. Is tic-tac-toe a game? Thank you for the $10, man. That's really cool of you. That's $20, man. Thank you very much for the support. I really appreciate you. All right, sweet. Calling 11 on the dice. Yeah. Hello. I just wanted to say capitalism is the greatest thing ever invented. It wasn't invented. It just is. Right? It's like that's the thing about a lot of economics. Like a lot of people think that it was planned. Like there's this like there's planning within economics. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like, everything just miraculously takes place, or something. It's not like that at all. There's definite planning that takes place within economics. But, you know, I mean, what is capitalism, right? Capitalism is like, there's a couple of ways of looking at capitalism. Like, you can look at it from the, look at it from the positive side of things, right? Capitalism provides the best, most, you know, best, highest quality, greatest products at the most efficient price to the customer at the quickest delivery. Right? That's what capitalism done. Another way to look at capitalism is you take natural resources and you turn it to garbage as fast as possible. Right? Those are two ways of calling out capitalism, right? Now, it depends on how you look at it and the meaning that you give it all, right? But those are two ways that you can really look at it, right? One of them says, hey, I'm delivering you the best possible products to the customer at the most efficient price. right? Like, I mean, this is what capitalism does. Another person says, no, what you do is you take natural resources and you convert it to garbage as fast as possible. Both of them are right. Both of them are right. So the meaning that you give it is the meaning that you give it, but they exist at the same time. All right. And it's not somebody's planning that does that. It's just what is. And now you can restrict that or encourage it or do whatever you want, but it's just an is. It's not a planned thing, right? I was more or less saying created in the terms of Adam Smith coining it. Oh yeah, well I mean okay, I mean I'm sorry. I guess I shouldn't be so like out there like that. But yeah, you I mean yeah, when it's coined in such fashions, yes, I can see that part. But like that's where but it's still again like the political planning of economics to me is more the political planning on how they are going to interact with the current economic condition that is existing. And I think that's a big difference, right? Because there's people out there who's like, no, we have politicians who put us right in the right position, or we have politicians who happen to be in the right position to take advantage of the situation, right? Now that's like more the condition. Right? I mean, here's another way I kind of look at it, and why it is that I don't think politicians have as much impact on the economy as a lot of people give them credit for, right? And again, like if you give them credit for destroying the economy, you can also give them credit for fixing the economy, and I just don't believe that that can happen, right? Because I don't think there is a fixing of the economy. I think it's just a position in which that you have taken personally in order to deal with it. So, like economy might be great for one person, but terrible for another who it doesn't need to be fixed for, right? So there is no fixing. It's just more of the position that you have taken at the time. So there is no politician who can fix it, right? It doesn't. There's no fixing anything. It's just is again, right? And so when we think about like you personally, when you have an income, right? You have an income, and the way you deal with it, that income, is like the politician, right? You pay your bills, you're doing this, you're creating your defenses, you're doing whatever, like you got your money coming in, right? And so you're dealing with like your economy, right? Your household's like your economy. You're like the country, you're like the politicians, you got your family there, you got the people that you work with, whatever. You're like the government, like your little household is. But what happens when someday all of a sudden the new money stops coming in, right? Now, you as a politician were doing everything right. Like everybody was happy with you. You did everything exactly the way that you were supposed to be doing it. And you had the economy, your little household set up, paying bills, making money, having and enjoying the life, doing what everything that you needed to do. And then all of a sudden one day the money stops coming in. Okay. And now you're like, but I didn't like everything I did was the right decision. Okay. Because that's the way the economy works. It's not you, right, who has created the economy, although you've created the economy within your house, right? The real economy, the things that are out there, all the people that you're interacting with, the whole world and the production that they are doing, right? That is where the real economy is taking place, and you're interacting with that within your own little economy. That's why I say the economy is everybody. You are the economy. You are it. That's it. There is no other thing. It's just you, right? And the way that you are interacting with it. And that's the same thing with those politicians. And the moment that it doesn't happen anymore, the money does stops coming in, all the decisions that they have made are gone, right? But yet the economy is still operating out there. Now you got to deal with it in a new fashion. This is the way I look at it. This is the way I see it. It's not up to me to vote for somebody who's going to fix my problem. Right? My problem is needing to be fixed by me, and I cannot throw that out there for somebody else. Like, I mean, you can go out there and try and find somebody to help you out with it, but for the most part, you are going to have to, figure these things out for yourself in order to deal with the problems that are existing out there. And the moment that you say, well, the problem is that I put all my investments into this particular direction and that guy who is president is screwing it up. That's the problem right there. Right? It's because The position that you have taken should have been one that, regardless of what that dude does, I'm protected. I know how to handle this. I know what I'm doing. And if he goes in or doesn't go in, or regardless of what goes on there, I know what it is that I'm going to do. Right. And that's really what this comes down to. Okay. Let's go back up here. Man, there were some super chats just flying in here. Okay. The game is beatable. Thank you for that, KNFX. KenFX. You sent me another $10. Just sending me money, man. Thank you so much, man. Infamous NYC. It's great to see you up in here. $5. Thank you very much for the super chat. Record number of Americans moving to Mexico. The ones who can leave will. Eric Adams was talking about this in New York City. The wealthy are leaving the poor behind. Yeah, and I can see where that would happen. I mean, even in Cantillon's essay, he talks about like foreign, like, families moving to particular areas. Well, why would they move there? It's because it's a beautiful area that's cheaper to live, and they got all this money coming from their home area. Well, think about it. Why would Americans want to move to Mexico? Same thing, right? Thank you very much for that too. I really appreciate the support here tonight, guys. Hey, another $5 from an infamous NYC. 18% of adults and 15% of children live in poverty in New York City. Ooh. New York City poverty line is 15,000 income. They fudge the real numbers. Probably 50% can't afford to live. Wow. That's got to be tough. That is like, especially someplace like New York City. Like for me, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe like, I don't know. I've never really lived in a big city or anything like that. I've always lived out in like, kind of smaller areas. But to me, like, I don't know. I find making money or finding ways to earn money easy when you have like a big network of people in a small community. Like, I don't know, to me it's just like, word gets around fast and you can really, do some stuff. Like, that's the way I've kind of operated. So I don't know, living in a big city, to me it seems like it's like it would be hard. Like, how do you, I don't know. Like, how do you find the resources and stuff? I don't know. To me, like, I just know so many people. Maybe it's just because I live here for so long. All right. Did I see another? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. All right. It's pure gen. Okay, I hope you all are having an awesome day, night. Well, thank you, Fire on the Grum. If you want to test you economist skills, add up the taxes you pay living in different states. I don't know. That's, I think, is personal finance skills. I don't know if that's necessarily economics. Macroeconomics is more like, to me, is like monetary policies, trade balances, stuff like that. Like personal budgeting and stuff like that. I mean, I think it's important to know, I mean, on a personal level, but I don't think it has as much to do with macroeconomics or understanding economics in general. I think it can help, like, if you are in a good position with your finances, that you're not stressing about economics out there, like worried about your job, worried about your 401k, worried about, these things. If you're not worried about those sort of things, I think that's a much better position to be in, to study economics. Um, like, I think investors and economists are not the same thing. I think they're like, I think they look at things completely differently. And even though, like, a lot of times the information and even like the way they talk, might sound very similar, I don't think they're necessarily the same type of people or the same, looking at things the same way. Um, I mean, I think economists make terrible investors. I mean, I do. Uh, uh, Cash Jordan did a video on this 120K children in New York homeless, record high. New York City and Cali, highest welfare states in the country. When it goes, beware. Yeah, well, it's gonna get tough. I mean, I think I think oh, there we go. I think as we start finding, like, as the Federal Reserve tries to deal with how it is that you redistribute the new money coming into the system, because that's ultimately what their job is going to end up being, is like, how do you get this money out there? See, before, people would just borrow the money and go spend it, right? So you borrow this money from the big banks or whatever, and you go buy houses, cars, go on vacation, and you spend this money out there into the economy, and it starts filtering through. As we import foreign goods from China and then sell those foreign goods to each other, this is how we ended up finding an economy here, right? We're consumer based. So as long as we can borrow money, buy foreign production, bring that foreign production in and sell it to each other, everybody has a job and everything works. But what we're finding now is that it's going to get very difficult to keep bringing that new money in. Like, how do you get people to continue to borrow money? Right, at least on a scale that drives the consumerism that we have going on here in this nation. Ultimately, dropping interest rates does it, but if the dropping of interest rates is no longer an effective tool, then you're going to have to go into stimulus injections like helicopter money, or like, literally, like, with the central bank digital currencies, just injecting money right into your bank accounts. At this point, this is where things are going to get really interesting, because, like, it's nothing that has ever really been attempted before on a scale that I think that the Federal Reserve is going to attempt to do it. Like, if you want to save the system, this is what's going to happen. Like, if you don't want to save the system, then you just let it collapse. But there's no other way around it. You have to figure out a way to continue the expansion of the money supply. And you have to figure out a way to get that into the people's hands so that they'll actually spend it. And if they don't voluntarily go and borrow the money to do it, then you have to force feed it into them. Right? And if you force feed it into them, then you're going to have to pay attention to where it is that they're going with it. So the central bank digital currency is going to be the perfect thing to use, because then you can have a digital wallet that says you can only use this on food, or you can only use this on energy, or you can only use it on whatever. And you can't use it on tobacco, and you can't use it on alcohol or firearms or weed or Bitcoin, right? So once you have control of the currency in that kind of fashion, it's like a central bank's wet dream. They can just continue on with the system forever, right? With money injection and limitations on where that money can go, maybe even time limits on the money, stuff like that. But this is what's going to have to happen in order for it to work. Otherwise, like, it's not what has to happen. I shouldn't say that. If that doesn't happen, then what you will need to have happen, how about that? Right? Choice A or choice B. Figure out a way to get the people to borrow the money themselves. Right? That's it. So either the government forces it down your throat, or you voluntarily take it. That's the only way it can work. Right? Because, I mean, we're not going to go and manufacture a bunch of stuff to bring new money in. Like, that ain't happening. Right? I mean, as much as people wish and want and say, oh gosh, look at all this, effort that the government's going into, it's a bunch of bullshit. It ain't going to happen. Right? And I mean, it could happen a little bit. I shouldn't say it's not going to happen. There's going to be evidence of it taking place out there, but it's not going to be like any kind of significant turnaround inside of the economy, the U.S. economy. We're on a one-way path. That's credit debt expansion, and how it is that we can get that into the economy, it's going to be very questionable. Like I said, if the people don't do it themselves, then it's going to have to be force-fed into us. All right. Ken FX, man, you are just like, thank you so much for all this, man. You're like, I don't even know how much you're up to today. It's like 40, $50 now. You can help the future. Thanks. All right. It will create two classes of citizens. Yeah. Not sure how that is relevant. 19th. Okay. All-nighter hider. Are you my teams of doctors? No. Well, you might be. Wait, doctor. Okay, whatever. Thank you. Okay. Okay, here we go. Uneducated Economist. Do you think that if the U.S. wasn't so anti-petroleum drilling, the prices would drop and the market stabilize? Everything uses petroleum. Well, I don't understand. Like, oil is like at $75 a barrel. It's like 50% of its all-time high. I don't know what it is that we could do to try and bring oil down in price. Like, as far as I'm concerned, I think it is down. my this is another thing. People asked me a long time ago what I thought about oil prices and how they're going to go up to all-time highs and cause this major inflation thing. I said oil prices are going to come down. Oil prices are going to come way down, and then it's going to cause a disinflationary scenario because of it, right? And now the inflation scenario at first is quite dramatic. When oil prices go up and the input costs going into manufacturing due to the high oil prices causes high prices. That's part of this, right? The added consumption creates the demand, or the demand for creates the added consumption. The added consumption starts bringing in more product. More product is added, manufacturing, transportation, all that other stuff. It starts demanding more energy, right? As that price starts to move up, all of a sudden you find people who no longer want to start purchasing at those high prices. And so they back off. And all of a sudden you have a crash in everything. And you can see it taking place within oil. All right. Now, a crash to negative oil prices again, like we saw during the pandemic now. Right. But they're at $75 a barrel. I mean, this is like, can anybody like lumber back at like normal prices? Oil, normal prices. Silver, 50% of its all time high, somewhat normal prices. Like, it's not really normal. Silver's kind of high right now. But you get what I'm at, right? I mean, the the amount of processing and profit and money and everything that goes from the cost of a barrel of oil to the time you actually pay for it at the pump, it's pretty obvious that there's a lot of middlemen in there, right? All right. Wow. Thank you so much, Ken. Ken FX, man. You're like, thank you for the support, bro. You motivate young generations, but the bank is gonna make an enemy of you. Um, no, only if you make them your enemy. Only if you let them be, right? Um, I'm more of the idea that I'm gonna make them my bitch, right? Like, if I understand who they are and I understand what they're doing, I think I can position myself in order to do quite well. Now, I don't know exactly what that is, but I hope intuitively I'll figure that out at the time, right? And I think what it is that I am doing is the right thing. So I hope I do motivate young people. And I hope that they do understand the banking system. And I do hope the banking system tries to push them around. And they don't take it. And they don't let them. And they don't fall for it. And they start reading Federal Reserve speeches. And they start, relating 200-year-old essays to what's going on right now. Like, I would love to see that happen. I would love to have a following of people who can take this information and spit it out better than I can. Like, to be able to take the Fed strategy that I have tried to try and form and be able to recommunicate it in a way that is far better than what I'm doing. To take the research and come up with the quotes and come up with the way, like, I'm not like a studying kind of dude. Like, I barely graduated high school. I did not go to college. I don't do this kind of stuff. Like, I don't like do research papers and things like that. That wasn't me, right? I don't know how it is that I fell into studying this stuff as deeply as I do, and how it is that I was able to like come out here and give the information I can, but this is the best that I can do it, right? And I know there's people out there who could take this and make it so much better, right? And if they're motivated from some of the things that I have said, I would love to see that happen, right? I mean, again, like the guy who wrote that book that I think I took it inside. I don't have it out here. The guy who wrote that book talking about how, like, my idea about how the economy is the mechanical form of consciousness. This is like this is like something that you can really wrap your head around when you get to thinking about it. It's like you're sitting there about ready to make a transaction with somebody on the other side of a counter. You're buying a pop, right? You go and you get yourself, a beverage out of the cooler of a mini mart, right? And you got to sit in there and you think about all the effort in the entire world that it took in order for that thing to sit right there on that counter, right? And all the time and all the things that you had ever done in your entire life so that you could put a $5 bill down there to pay for it, right? And you think about all the timelines that had to occur in order for this exact moment between the two of you to occur, right? I mean, this is amazing stuff when you have it on this kind of level, on this consciousness level. It's like it's hard to form into words, but to me, it's quite amazing to think about. You know? All right. Let's see. There we go. Fire on the Grom. Thank you for the $2. Hope you're having a good day. From me and my new fiance. Well, congratulations. Thank you very much for the $2. You guys are awesome. I hope you have a wonderful time leading up to your wedding and you know everything that's going down with that. I mean, that's awesome to hear. Very encouraging. You know, with all the things that happen out there nowadays, you know, it's nice to see that people are happy. Or a couple people can be happy, you know. The oil in West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, Pennsylvania is better than sweet crude. We need to drill our own oil and reopen the pipelines. Could you speak a bit more on how you want to make the banks your bitch? No, it's not make them my bitch. It's making the information that's going out there. That's really it. Like they hide. I'm paying off all my debt, stacking cash, and building available credit banks. No, I'm no chump. Well, then I think you're doing it right. Don't like. I mean, if you truly understood what it is that's happening out there, nobody would be borrowing money, right? Nobody would ever borrow money. The temptation that comes from it is amazing, right? It's just incredible. And now if you can take that debt and you go buy something that now pays you a profit from it, how is that not making them your bitch? Right? Now, if they have information out there that they are trying to present in a way that has you believing a certain path, but it's not actually the real path that is happening out there, much like the higher inflation expectation being the real issue that the Federal Reserve was attempting to fix, right? Because they had too low of an inflation expectation. See, understanding that and why, you'll be making decisions that are not like everybody else who thinks that the Federal Reserve lost control. Right? They think they lost control of inflation and that inflation was going to go flying off the charts and that we're going to have hyperinflation. A lot of people still believe that, right? But yet here in speeches given from years ago, they're talking about how they need a higher inflation expectation in order for their monetary policy to work. I've described how it is that higher inflation expectation gives the Federal Reserve their ammo back. By raising the Fed funds rate and raising the neutral interest rate up, they are now able to get their ammo back to stimulate the economy. This is a desperate move that the Federal Reserve was going into when it happened, when this pandemic took place. It worked. If they didn't do that, they were going to fail. Like, I don't know if people realize that. Like, we were on the brink, and nobody really talks about how bad it was going to be. September of 2019, that when they opened up that repo facility in order to take the U.S. Treasuries and hand a bunch of cash out, there was a liquidity crisis taking place right then. They knew it was going to happen. That's how it come. Like they talked about that repo facility months ahead of time. I did a video called "Things Are Changing." Right? That repo facility had already existed, but it wasn't standing. It wasn't there available all the time for everybody to use. It was only there for like a pressure relief. But in September of 2019, when that huge tax payment had taken place and those corporations took a bunch of money out of the big banks and sent it over to the Treasury General account, and there was a whole lot less cash left in the banking system, the overnight lending rate shot up to like 10%. The Federal Reserve said, no way. You guys are sitting on a bunch of treasuries. Give us those treasuries. We give you cash. We'll do this overnight lending thing that's happening here, or this overnight, repo thing. And you'll be sitting on enough cash to operate the next day. We'll just do this every day. It'll be non-QE QE. Okay? This was planned. It wasn't an accident. They didn't go like, oh crap, what do we do? Right? They didn't do that. Like, we know they didn't do that because I wouldn't have been able to put that video out a year earlier or 6 months earlier or whatever it was. Like, they were talking about it. They knew that this moment would eventually find its way. Now, whether or not they thought it was going to be as intense or at that exact moment or whatever, they knew the situation was on its way. Or else they wouldn't have been able, or I wouldn't have been able to put that video out. See, this is why I keep saying it. This is the information that you need. You can put yourself, like, when people see that repo facility kicking into gear, they thought that the Federal Reserve, again, had lost control. They didn't. They knew. Right? They knew ahead of time. And that's again, this is the important information that I keep trying to get out there for people to know. Like, I don't know everything that the Federal Reserve is going to do, but I know that the strategy that they are talking about within their own speeches, their own words, is so different from somebody else who's saying that the Fed fucked up. All right? Like, I'm tired of hearing it. I like the information that comes from some of these guys. They have some good stuff out there. Like, very, very informative understanding of how everything works. But to believe that the Fed had screwed up, that they don't know what they're doing, is part of their narrative. That is exactly what it is that the Fed needed people to believe. Like, the people who are saying that the Fed screwed up are actually helping the Federal Reserve conduct their monetary policy of raising the inflation expectation. It's totally on their side. People like me, I'm actually fighting the Fed. I'm not the one who's believing their stuff. I believe that they put out this narrative and convinced the people that they were going to fail on purpose so that they could raise the inflation expectation, and it worked. It totally worked. Right? And I mean, this is the way I see it. Like, I can't not unsee it that way, you know? All right, man. That's it, man. You got me up to $100, bro. In super chats. That is so cool. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you. All right. My 14 son will read or listen. You good BTO. What is the same about every game? They're beatable? Is that? I really appreciate you, Bram, but you're kind of cryptic in your comments. My 14th son, I'm guessing my 14-year-old son, will read or listen. You good BTO. What is the same about every game? Haha, you must have really good. Thanks, Ken FX. I'm sorry, man. Pothead steel trap of memory. All-nighter, okay. Oh man, message retracted. Well, thank you for the $9.99, whoever sent it to me. If I still get it, retracted. Fuang, I guess sent it. Thank you, All-nighter, because all I see is just a bunch of, I see a 5 and a sticker thing going on here. Or is that from Crypto Beauty? Who's that from? Oh, she's left. She put the smiley face there. I see it. Okay. Hit the like button, guys. Yes, please do. You know, is there anything else that you guys want to bring up and talk about? You guys want to talk a little bit more about that penny case? I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of loosening up a little bit more. Maybe I would be, willing to talk a little bit more about that. But what an amazing thing. Like, I cannot believe the people that I know. Like, it's just, I don't get it. Like, I mean, I look around and I'm like, why do I know? Like, why is this happening? You know? Dumb question, UE. Perfect. How does China going to war being new money in? Because what they'll end up doing is they'll take the natural resources and, like, a way that they're actually going to try and do this is probably through the Silk Road initiatives, right? But it doesn't seem to be working out too well for them, right? The Belt and Road Initiative. I'm sorry. So if you can get, like, these other nations, like if you can own their assets, their ports, their natural resources, their stuff, then you can have their work then sending you new money, right? Which kind of is taking place over there, but it's not seemingly to work out enough for them to offset the fact that the manufacturing is slowing down. So if going to war is going to create new money, what going to war is going to do is it's going to take those resources from those particular nations. Good Lord. Excuse me. It's going to start taking those resources from those nations. I mean, think about the Roman Empire going around taking everything from everybody so that they can continue to feed their luxurious life. Same thing, right? And so, I mean, how well that's going to work in today's modern days is going to be very difficult, right? I mean, you can't just conduct wars like you did, like, just go and invade another nation like like, I mean, watch Russia try and do it. It's not seeming to be working out too well, right? So even if you're China, which you have a hell of a lot more resources and a lot more manpower and stuff like that, it's still very difficult to just go over there and just start taking out nations and saying, hey, I'm just going to start accumulating all your stuff. So you have to kind of do it through business deals, right? And this is where the Belt and Road Initiative stuff starts coming in and trying to get new money in through that way. The United States, same thing. Like, do your oil deals in dollars or else, all right? So long as you do that, then we'll protect you. We got this huge military. We'll protect the shipping channels and everything else that comes. So this is how, like, the new money starts rolling in. How do you figure it out? Like, China needs to figure that out, but they got to do it by force at some point because, like, their business deals may not. Like, I mean, maybe they can do it by business. Maybe they're just like savvy enough to like say, hey, we can conduct business enough that we can bring in the new money through, the investment into these other nations or whatever. But I'm doubting that to be kind of the case. Like, I don't know if that's going to work out too well for them. To me, it's going to end up being more of like a forceful effort through military actions because that's always seems to be the way it has gone down. The United States did it through debt issuance. Like, we kind of tricked everybody off of the gold standard into dollars, and when everybody tried to abandon it, we basically kicked interest rates up real high, made those U.S. Treasuries real attractive, and took over as the world reserve currency, or locked in, I guess. Well, Feng Li, I think we just covered that one, but thank you for the 1999, man. Okay. Michael, the problem with $100 ounce silver is what's going to happen to everything else would be great if isolated. Are you guys talking about holding 100 ounces? All right. Uranium possibly since its energy density and calories, but has a higher barrier than coal. Huh. Silver won't be worth more relative to everything else. Why not? I mean, I don't know why. Silver, I think, is going to be worth quite a bit. Like, silver's probably the most, well, like Chris Dewayne used to say, like, silver's the second most vital commodity to the human existence next to oil, right? Like, all the computer, like all the, communication grids, electrical grids, all the new vehicles, all the cell phones, all the communications, lots of medical, lots of, like, solar panels, lots of industrial use, all kinds of things uses silver. It's a vital commodity. And so it'll be worth a lot, right? Especially considering, like, how rare it really is out there. Like, people don't even realize how rare of a commodity silver is. Think about it. Like, I don't know the exact number, but like silver production somewhere around 900 million ounces, if I got it right. We'll just say 900 million because I'm sure it's fairly close to that. Now, you think about it, 900 million ounces, 50% of that immediately goes to industrial use, to be consumed forever, never to be found again. Like, it's gone forever, right? 50% of that. So that only leaves like 450 million ounces. That's not a lot for investment purposes for people to buy. Now, if you took every single American and they went out and attempted to buy just 1 ounce of silver, just one. Every man, woman, and child in the United States tried to go and acquire just 1 ounce of silver. It would essentially eat up the entire world production of silver. Just if the United States tried to acquire, everybody in the United States tried to acquire 1 ounce. Now, you start throwing Canada and Mexico and Europe and China and Russia and India and everybody else, and they all try to get just 1 ounce of silver, it would be gone. Gone forever, none to be had, and the price of it would fly through the moon if everybody tried to acquire just 1 ounce. Right? And it's huge demand. Our very way of life exists because of silver. What do you think would happen to the price? If you are a manufacturer of a cell phone and you cannot find silver out there and you just need a little tiny piece of it so that you can make your phone, how much would you pay for it? You'd pay a lot for 1 ounce of silver so that you can make that product. Right? This is what we're facing in the future. And so for people to say that silver is worthless, never going to be worth anything going into the future, I think that's a very, I think that's a very dangerous position to take. I'm not saying you should put your whole faith into silver, but if you don't look at it from that position, then I think you're taking a dangerous position by not accumulating at least some silver. Besides, I don't even look at it from an investment point of view. I look at it from an insurance point of view, because that's one of the few things that you can have that's outside of that third party claim. You don't have to worry about like a bank account, a stock portfolio. You don't have to worry about the crypto, the grid, or whatever thing like that. It's physical in your hand, away from any kind of third party claim. There's nothing else out there that does that. Sure, bullets, I guess, food on a kind of an extent, but nothing like silver or gold can do, you know? I can't brag that stuff up enough. Like, if you have nothing, you have no savings, you have debts, you have all kinds of stuff. If you are not paying your debts off, if you don't want to pay your debt off with a $20 or $40, go down and buy an ounce of silver. I suggest you pay the debt off with it, but if you don't want to pay the debt off with it, go buy an ounce of silver, put it in a drawer somewhere, put it in a coffee can up in the pantry, and forget about it. And just keep doing that once a month, every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks or whatever. And you do that from now on. And I tell you, you'll get to a point where you start sleeping at night. It's pretty cool. All right, guys, I'm going to give it a few more minutes here. I want to thank everybody for being part of this chat tonight. We have 165 people with well over $127 in Super Chat, which is so amazing. Thank you so much for all that support. I really want to encourage everybody to please go watch the Nancy Grace link that I leave down in the YouTube channel, or leave down in the description. It's a YouTube channel, YouTube video interviewing both Penny and her father. Penny's a runaway who's somewhere in the nation right now, just tearing it up, doing her thing, trying to figure out what it is that she needs to do. But she shouldn't be out there on the run. Like, this is not the way it goes down, right? Although I have to give it to her. I'm proud of her, for sticking to her beliefs and sticking to what it is that she needs, that she feels that she needs to do. But it's gotta come to an end. It can't continue on. So yeah, please go check it out. I don't want to give out the information because I figure like Nancy Grace has covered it perfectly. I don't need to give my opinions on anybody or anything or any of the facts or details of it all. It's all covered in that video. She did a great job of it, so I don't need to take any of that on for myself to do it here. But I do find it to be somewhat of my responsibility to at least give you guys a shot at that information so that you can, so that I feel like I have done my part to try and get the information out there so that Penny can be found. Which is something that my local paper didn't even do. So that says a lot about stuff that's going on here. And again, why it is that I don't really like politics, right? It's because of this right here. I mean, if this was my daughter, I think that I would want my local paper to cover it, but my local paper chose not to do it so far anyway. And now I don't have any reasonings for it. I don't even know. They may have some reasonings why they didn't do it, but everybody else is doing it, right? Like from New York to Nancy Grace to places all over are covering the story, but my local paper decides not to. Very interesting. I think it's because of the people that were involved, the family that's involved, and their decisions not to do that is, to me, pretty heartbreaking. And in my personal belief, I think it's very irresponsible of them. So I just wanted to put that out there, just to at least, give you guys my feelings on what's taking place here. But again, like, if you want the facts and the details of it, please go check out that video. And I tell you, I really, go get it, Penny. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do for the channel. Thank you so much for the support. I love these discussions. I think we really break it down. Is Penny a kid? Yes, Penny is a 15-year-old runaway who is, I don't know where she's at. She's last time they saw her, she was in Vegas, and so but who knows where she's headed to right now, or where she's hiding and where she's going. So she's out there somewhere in the world. But like, like I said, this channel, it's such a broad, it's covers so much of this of the nations, because like everybody seems to be here, and that's the reason why I'm bringing it up, is because I feel that if everybody was to take that particular link, that Nancy Grace thing, and just share the story maybe on their Facebook page or something like that, um, then maybe she could be found. But again, like I didn't want to I didn't want to cover the information itself. I want to give that over to Nancy Grace and let that interview, because it's like Penny's talking, her dad's talking, like everything is right there. But again, like I'm doing this because we need to find Penny and get her the help she needs. She needs to, she needs to not run. That's the problem, right? That we have right going on right now, is that this is not the way this should be going down. She can't be on the run. That's it, right? Um, so that's it. Okay. All right. Okay. I see. Thank you. She needed to be found. Okay. Yes, absolutely. All right. Penny is that cartoon with the pennies for eyes. No. Penny is a real person. So, go check it out. Listen to her. Listen to the interview. It's good. All right. Okay, I'm out of here, guys. Thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you for the likes, 257 likes, 151 people watching right now. It was a 2-hour video. We talked all kinds of great economic theories, talked about, what it is that countries will face when they lapse into luxuries and fall into decline. What does it say? I don't know the full story, but why should she come back to an abusive situation? I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said she needs to be found so she can get off the streets and find the help that she needs. I didn't say that she needs to be, I didn't say that, to be returned to an abusive place. Like if that's the case, if that is the case, I didn't say that, right? So take care, bruh. See you next time, friends. Yes, Ironwood Workman. See ya. All right, my problems have always ran faster than me. Yeah. I don't know the full. Oh, we already did that one. Please post the link. The link is down. Deja vu. The link is down in the description. It's the YouTube video link. It's right there at the very beginning of the description. So you can find it there. And if you go to this Nancy Grace, it's like, I think it's just the most recent video that she's posted. It had to have been within the last, recent video. So like, last day or two. There's two. There's the first one and the second one. It's the second one that you want to listen to. That's the one with the interview with Penny and her father. She, like Nancy, interviews both of them. So, and it's weird. Like I know these two well. Like I know them really well. Like they were my neighbor for years and years. And I mean, like I've known Penny since she was 6 years old. And like I said, earlier, I mean, this does not surprise me. I mean, Penny is tough. She is smart. She is like, yeah, this doesn't surprise me, but she can't be out there, All right. Who would name their kid Penny? That's it. If she was okay, I'm not getting into that. All right, I sold my Bitcoin and currently getting 6%. All right. Yeah, I know the kid. Yeah, I know him. I know the family really well. Um, One day we should talk about gold premium manipulation on the London Exchange. Yeah, that would be a good one. I mean, it's that's a topic that seems to be covered, pretty well out there. I've been like, I've been listening to the silver short position thing like for a very long time. And I got really on board when Max Kaiser tried to crash JP Morgan buy silver campaign, and it was pretty upsetting when silver ran up to $50 an ounce and he was selling ounces of silver with his face on it, only to watch silver drop down all the way into the teens. So I don't get excited about like manipulation stories or anything like that. I get excited about being able to stack. That's it. Like, how much can I stack? And that's what I get excited about. Everything else is kind of a fun story to get excited about, but I don't really like take it into my, like, this is the reason why I'm buying theory. I buy for insurance policy. All right, Matt, how many MO shares do you own, if you don't mind me asking? I don't know. I'm guessing somewhere around 50. I'm guessing 50, 50 or so. Um, I'm guessing like, yeah, about 50 shares. All right. Thank you, Simon. Well, thank you, Deja Vu. Who's going to use the LME now? No credibility. Uh, this is how the economy is fail. Did I put that in there? This is how the economy is fail. Is that what I wrote for a title? I know I'm so uneducated, and I just okay. Hey, gyrate. That's all you have to say is okay, bye. You don't have some smart ass thing to say about my shirt not fitting right or something. Sorry, he's like my resident troll right now. He's a cool guy. All right. Still kind of bummed about that last Silver Bull run. I got caught up in the luster. Yeah, I did too. Planner Channel, I did too. Like, I was pumped. Like, when I watched it go up to $50 an ounce, I thought I was the smartest dude in the world. I thought, man, I got this, man. I am like, and then, trickled all the way down into the teens and whatever. Cigarettes are recession proof. Well, I mean, that's why I bought into them to Mo, like into that MO ticker, into Altria. MO ticker is Altria. It's Anheuser-Busch and Marlboro cigarettes. They also like Juul, like the vape thing. Anyhow, I don't really into any of that stuff. However, I do know a little bit about addiction, and that particular stock has a pretty decent dividend payment to it, dividend yield. And so even though that particular stock within my portfolio is like down pretty significant, not like a ton, but it's down a fairly significant amount, the amount of dividend payments that I've gotten from owning it has offset how much this stock is down, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's worth holding on to, in my opinion. All right. Let's see. Haha. I've had ego death multiple times trading metals, options, etc. Now I stick to yields and dividends. All nighter hider. I can buy the cheapest. I can buy the cheapest in the U.S., but I never smoke them. Cigarettes are feminine cigars. All right. Okay, guys, you have been so awesome. This has been an absolute fun live stream to do tonight. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy all the comments and all the thumbs up and, all the support. I mean, I can't thank you enough for it because, you know, it makes the world a difference for me. And, I feel the encouragement that comes from you guys when you do it. So thank you. And I don't know what else to say. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know. I only smoked the green. Good for you. Oh, you guys are going at it. Matt Bittner cigarettes were originally the trash from tobacco processing. Oh, you guys. All right. Thanks, Simon, and everyone here. Your participation makes the show. It really does. It really does. Because if you guys weren't here, just wouldn't be nothing to do, right? So, all right. I got to go. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.